speaker of this session is Nitish Nag. The topic is cross-modal health state estimation. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nitish Nag. I'm from University of California, Irvine, and I'm presenting some work here that my colleague Vaibhav Pandey is also in the audience that worked on. And we're in Professor Ramesh Jain's lab working on how we can understand health better. So I want to start off by explaining the background and 10,000-foot view of what we're doing. And the most important thing to see in this graph is that in the last 100 years, we've done a really good job in the field of medicine to reduce the rate of infectious disease. But there's this blue line that doesn't seem to keep going down. That's all of the chronic disease we see as the major part of healthcare today. And so I'm an MD PhD student, and as a physician, when I'm in the hospital, this is what I get frustrated with. I see a patient like this, and this patient shouldn't be there, because what we're doing is we're just treating their sickness. And what we should need to be doing is keeping patients healthy, not having them come back to the hospital. So because of this frustration, I'm really excited to present to you how we're going to start to address that. So I would like to make this a little bit interactive. So I want you to look at your neighbor, and I want you to share 3 things that have affected your health since you came to ACM Multimedia. You can go ahead and start. You're supposed to talk to each other. All right, thanks everybody for your discussion. And obviously you can extend your discussions during the next coffee break. So the reason why I asked you to do that is to think about how tomorrow we can have health equivalent to staying healthy. And as a person ages through their entire life cycle, what we want to know is how can we control their health at every given point? Not just once things go wrong, then we should look at what's going to happen. And so the biggest fundamental initial point we need to look at is estimating the constant state of someone's health. So in the ancient civilization, you're a caveman, you live inside a forest, and you only really start noticing your health changing once you get symptoms. And so that's when you start to pay attention. And in our current healthcare system, what we've done is we basically said we can improve how much attention we pay to your health by doing these like annual checkups. So if I were to tell you you're going to drive a self-driving car, we're going to check the position of your car once a year. You're going to be unable to drive your self-driving car. Yet we continue to treat health like this way. And so when you take a blood pressure or a cholesterol measurement or your EKG, etc., you're just using multimodal data to understand your health that you can't perceive. And so this is how my colleagues who are physicians see health. They see, oh, this patient has high blood pressure, or they have coronary heart disease. And some of my other friends coming from an athletic background say, oh, I want to go to the Olympics, or I want to have a healthy pregnancy, or I want to go on this hiking trip. And these are all classifications of someone. So you all know your friend, oh yeah, that guy, he's fit. And you just classify them into one category. And so actually, going back to Yaman's talk, this is not a classification problem, and that's the big problem. What we're actually trying to do is state estimation. So you have this large state space of health that you could be in. And you could be at any one of these points at any given time right now. The problem is you just don't know where you are. And so you can imagine as you're changing throughout your health, whether you're young, you're old, you're always moving on this map. And those 3 things I asked you to think about when you came into Seoul and for ACM Multimedia, those things moved your map point. And so health classification for disease is an important topic, but it is just a subset of the entire health continuum. And so we want to be able to pay attention to the entire spectrum of health all the time. And so here's a quick example of a girl named Jane. So Jane, she's in school and she wants to be a scholar athlete. She wants to get that basketball scholarship to go to college. And so her health state ideal location is actually over here. And as she ages, she wants to look fit and be attractive as, a young 20-year-old would always want. And as she's married, she wants a healthy pregnancy. And so that state that she needs to be in is going to be different than when she was an athlete or when she wants to look good. And as she's a multimedia researcher, she wants to publish great research, she wants to be mentally sharp and energetic as she goes to all these conferences across the world. And as she ages into her retirement, she wants to age gracefully and be independent. So how do we know where someone is at all these states? The first thing is we need to know what are the things that would determine our state and what's moving us on this state space. And so this is a study from JAMA, which is a very renowned medical journal, talking about what has changed health, disability, and death in the last 20 years. And it actually turns out to be majority lifestyle factors. So if we can start measuring some of these lifestyle factors and know the association with their health state, we can start to guess where your pinpoint is on that state space. And so in any control system, just like you're measuring the temperature of this room to control the temperature with a thermostat, we want to first focus on measuring that temperature before we start controlling other things in someone's health. And so for a given user, we have a lot of data streams that could be generated, such as from wearable devices, social media, and geolocation. We want to translate this into something that's semantically useful and understandable. Given that we have understandable information, an expert can change these into some potential estimates on their biology. And given these aggregate estimates on their biology, we can start to estimate bits and pieces of their health state. And these can both be done by machine and by domain expert. So this is not saying that one job is just for one type of transfer. So our application that we worked on is in cardiovascular disease. And my colleague, who's a cardiology fellow at UCLA, he and I developed these 6 major states for cardiovascular health. And so what we did is we had a group of users, we took biologic data, sensor data, and digital data that they produce about themselves, and did that same 4-process step of changing into semantic information, these into biovariables, and these into simulated health states. And so the 2 research questions from a multimedia research standpoint we wanted to address were, how can we use a single or multimodal streams to estimate a single variable? And so the variable we were interested in is called VO2 max. It's a measure of cardiac performance. The second research question we wanted to address is, how can we use a multitude of streams to estimate a multi-set of biovariables? And that you can see in this darker shade of gray right here. So we had 24 subjects. Our subjects were all athletes, so they had collected data about their last 7 years of performance. And we also mapped this with geospatial data about pollution and crime and other stress factors in their environment. Also their physiologic data from their heart rate monitors and their bicycles. And we also took social media data from these athletes. And so mapping this with some domain knowledge that my expertise in medicine allowed us to actually start estimating these things in both a learned combination with machines, here for VO2 max, and we saw that the best performance was from multimodal data again. 3 different types of data allowed us to estimate the VO2 max the best. Our second research question that we wanted to address is, how can we use both domain knowledge and learned methods in order to get a much more detailed summary about our patients, or in this case, these subjects. And so here you can see an actual map of all of our 24 subjects. And these are all various components of their health state for cardiovascular health. And so a physician can actually go in there and click on a certain box and start to understand that this is a specific detail that's wrong with my patient. And so the important thing here to understand is that we talk a lot about these machine learning models, but we want them to also be explainable and explorable. So you should be able to understand and explore your data and have semantic meaning behind it. And so here's a mock-up of how a physician would start using this system, or another domain expert like a researcher. And for a user, they also may find this very interesting. And many of you check your bank accounts or your favorite sports team or your fantasy league, and you want to see the performance of how something's doing. And so you could also use this same type of estimation to just check up on your health constantly at any time you want it, based on your goals. So I want you to share, based on what I've just explained to you, with your neighbor, 30 seconds to try to think about what's something about my health state that I want to understand. So why don't you guys go ahead and do that? Yeah, you're supposed to talk to your neighbor again this time. Alright, you guys can carry out the discussion into the break, and I don't want to keep you here so you can continue discussing. But I do want you guys all to leave this room thinking about how can I estimate my health state? How can I know exactly how healthy I am right now on my entire state space map? And again, this is just applied in cardiovascular disease, but you can imagine this applied to skin, mental health, any component of health that you want to study. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. Our research is very new in this field. In fact, even in medicine, it's really new to start thinking like this. And so I just wanted to let you guys leave the room thinking about what you can do to contribute to help human health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Or any comments? Yeah.
Yes,
Great talk, and I'm completely sold. However, two things. One is you drew the health map as if it is known, but that is just an artistic rendering.
correct.
So the question is, how do we come up with the health map? That is one question. And the second question is, assuming you come up with the health map and you know where you are, in a car, you know if you turn the wheel left, the car goes towards left. So I ate too many cookies during the tea break. So
Thanks
I
for
don't know
admitting that.
which direction did I move on the
Right. So those are both really valid questions. The state space that I artistically rendered in the image is actually an area of hot research. So for example, when we talk about human performance, that could be one extreme of health, the state space. Can you run a sub 2 hour marathon? The other side is, this is very morbid, but a lot of the Nazi military did a lot of these tests to understand the other extreme of the health state. They would put people in freezing cold water and wait till they died, and then measure how cold the water had to be for someone to die. So on all ends of the spectrum, people are trying to understand the edges. The important thing is we don't know really the middle part of that state space. And so that's a very big research question and will be important for this entire research to progress. The second question that I had is, how do you know if I do this, where does it take me next? And so there's two types of methods that we're working on. One is a domain knowledge-based method where you use collaborative filtering type methods to understand other people who have done this type of an action also have this type of an ending or a result. The other method is if you can measure or observe what exactly is changing. So for example, if it's weight, we can observe weight and we would then know all of the decisions that led up to a change in the weight. And so over time, you can start to see patterns that are based on an individual. So those are the two methods by which we're working on.
Thank you, a very inspiring talk. Something caught my eye at, I think it was on your last or almost last slide, about the mental state.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will be even more difficult than, you can measure physical symptoms, right?
Absolutely.
But understanding what the mental state is of a person, for example, dementia, once somebody has clear dementia, then it becomes relatively understandable, but when it actually starts is very hard to say.
Absolutely.
Do you have any insights?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you at least what I know. So there's a lot of research in this community about emotion recognition from images. And so every time I see an emotion recognition paper, I'm thinking, how can I use this to estimate the mental health of this person? The second thing is there's research done at University of Washington by Dr. Anand Dey, and he looks at how typing on the keyboard and how typing changes based on alcohol content. So we all have maybe sent a couple of drunk text messages or two, and he's actually trying to understand, can you diagnose BAC levels based on text message typing? So there's multimodal methods by which you can start estimating the mental state, both at an acute level and over a long term. So just to jog your brain with a couple ideas that I've seen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then we conclude this session.